Welcome. Tonight, we're not just watching horror films, we're reading them. Join me as I dive into the most terrifying horror reviews of all time. Can I survive the creepiness of The Shining, The Ring, and more without losing my mind? We're about to find out how the words we read can be just as haunting as the images we see. Iconic horror films live rent-free in our heads, but their reviews also shape how we remember that fear. They are the echoes in the hall after the theater goes dark, the whispers that guide our expectations and cement our anxieties long after the credits roll. Some write-ups become warnings, rituals, even dares. They transform a private viewing into a shared cultural experience, a challenge to be met. The Shining, The Ring. Two different nightmares, both unforgettable. Their influence outlived the screenings. The discourse kept the dread alive. The conversation became part of the haunting itself. People remember how they felt. Reviews bottle that feeling. They act as a time capsule for terror, preserving the initial shock for future audiences to discover. The Shining is practically shorthand for unease. Its reviews taught us to look for the ghosts in the architecture, the madness in the patterns. The Ring rewired supernatural fear into modern folklore. Its reviews spread the central myth like a virus, turning a piece of technology into a cursed artifact. Terror lands when image, sound, and story conspire against our comfort. Sound design, in particular, is a phantom menace. It bypasses our logic and speaks directly to our primal brain. The low-frequency hum in Hereditary, the unnerving silence before a jump scare, these are weapons. A good review will point not just to what you see, but to what you hear, and more importantly, what you don't. When you feel it in your body, it lingers in your memory. This is the aftertaste of horror. It's the feeling of being watched as you walk down a dark hallway after seeing Get Out, or the newfound fear of your own attic after The Blair Witch Project. These films weaponize patience, silence, and suggestion. They build patterns of safety, and then shatter them, violating our expectations and leaving us vulnerable. And the reviews teach us how to look, listen, and dread. They prime our senses, pointing out the subtle clues and building a scaffold of anticipation before we even press play. Conveying fear in words is a high-wire act. It demands a surgeon's precision. Reveal too little, readers shrug. Reveal too much, fear deflates. The critic has to perform a magic trick. Show you the shape of the monster without ever turning on the light. Great criticism entices, evokes, and withholds. It uses sensory language to put you in the room, mimics the film's pacing in its own prose, and respects the sanctity of the scare. It captures essence without stealing the shock. It sells you the ticket but lets you take the ride alone. First, we'll examine the clockwork dread of The Shining, analyzing reviews that decoded its architectural and psychological terror. Then, we'll plug into the cursed circuit myth of The Ring and see how critics helped write the rules of its deadly game. We'll even touch on a cult classic whose reviews gave it a life its box office never could. We'll unpack the craft, the key moments, and the specific words that made these reviews as immortal as the films themselves. Are you ready? Let's step into the hotel and listen for what it's saying. To understand how to write about horror, we must first understand how it's built. Take Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. He builds dread, not with jump scares, but with ritual, long hypnotic takes, an obsessive, almost divine symmetry, and architecture that feels fundamentally wrong. The Overlook Hotel isn't just a setting, it's a geometric proof of madness, with impossible windows and corridors that lead nowhere. The camera doesn't just observe, it prowls. Time stretches into an unnerving stillness, forcing us to scan the frame, to search the shadows for a threat that isn't there. Our own mind, desperate to make sense of the void, starts filling the quiet with imagined horrors. We become our own tormentors. In this calculated emptiness, silence becomes a sound. It's a presence, heavy and expectant. This is where repetition turns the domestic into the demonic. The endless, patterned carpets aren't just decor. They're a visual mantra of insanity. Kubrick's signature low angles and harsh institutional glare create a world that stares back, judging and malevolent. The hotel itself feels like a predator. and performance is the fuse. We watch a mind fraying in isolation, a family trapped not just by a snowstorm, but by the architecture of their own dissolving bonds. In The Overlook, even the escape routes feel designed to fail, looping back on themselves like a recurring nightmare. The film achieves its brutal impact without relying on gore. Your brain supplies the worst, filling in the gaps with pure, primal fear. And then there's the axe. That infamous door scene didn't just break wood. It shattered a cinematic boundary and seared itself into our collective culture. It's a moment of raw, terrifying intrusion, punctuated by a line delivery that became a nightmare punchline. Early reviews called it shocking and grotesquely funny, a perfect encapsulation of its power. This is terror with a grin. Critics correctly framed it as atmosphere-first horror. Not a sudden shock, but a slow rot that gets under your skin and stays there. The film weaponizes domestic rhythms, work, caregiving, routine, twisting them until they turn predatory and unrecognizable. This spatial disorientation makes us complicit in the horror. We're lost in the maze, too, with no map to guide us. And the sound design whispers that safety is counterfeit. The scrape of a tricycle wheel transitioning from wood to carpet, the rhythmic thud of a tennis ball against the wall, the discordant shriek of the score. These sounds violate the hotel's silence, creating a symphony of dread. The film became a benchmark for psychological horror, studied, copied, but never quite replicated. Its DNA is visible in modern masterpieces, from the suffocating grief of to the systemic dread of. So when we write about a film like this, good criticism means hinting at the labyrinth without handing the reader a map. You must prioritize sensation over synopsis. Capture the feeling of being watched, the chill of an empty room, the texture of the dread. Protect the thresholds. Let the reader feel the same apprehension you did, letting them dread crossing into the next paragraph. The Shining trapped its characters in a physical space. But what happens when the haunted house isn't a hotel, but a piece of media? Now, from corridors to circuits, the curse goes modern. Don't answer the static. Let's talk about The Ring. It's a film that infects your ears before it ever touches your eyes. The sound design is a masterclass in dread. It weaponizes the mundane. Static becomes a tidal wave of surf. A simple breath turns into a venomous hiss. And silence. Silence is the ultimate omen. A vacuum where you know something terrible is about to rush in. This isn't just background noise. It's the primary language of the curse. A sonic infection that primes you for the visual horror to come. When the images do arrive, they feel found, cursed, almost documentary adjacent. This isn't polished Hollywood horror. It's a grainy, corrupted artifact that feels dangerously real. It taps into the same primal fear that made the Blair Witch Project a phenomenon. The unsettling idea that you're not watching a movie, but bearing witness to something you were never meant to see. Because of this, normal settings become haunted by implication. A living room, a television, a telephone. These are no longer safe. They are conduits for the curse, and at the center of it all, that circle. It's a threat and a promise, a closed loop of terror, telling you that you will always return here, to the source of the fear. And then there's the infamous TV scene, which collapsed the boundary between watcher and watched. It violates the single most important rule of the theater: you are safe in your seat. By having Samara crawl out of the screen, the film doesn't just break the fourth wall, it shatters it, suggesting the horror can and will cross over into your world. It's not just a jump scare, it's a concept bite, a terrifying viral idea that sticks in your brain. Those eyes, a profound emptiness that looks right back at you. Unsurprisingly, critics praised its relentless myth-making and its suffocating waterlogged mood. The film is a perfect engine, action with a deadly consequence, where time itself is the villain. Every ring of the phone is a reminder that doom communicates. It has your number. It's all symbolism you feel in your bones before you can decode it with your brain. Even after the cut to black, your mind won't power down. That's the aftertaste. So how do you write about a film like this? To write fear, you must prioritize tension over twists. The best horror criticism doesn't just recount the plot, it recreates the feeling. You have to trade spoilers for sensation. Focus on the sensory details. The oppressive quiet, the sickly green-blue color palette, the relentless pacing of that 7-day clock. Your job is to analyze the mechanics of the scare. This is why so many copies fail. They telegraph their punches and explain away the mystery. Originals thrive on ambiguity. Let time breathe on the page, just like it does on screen. Build the atmosphere for your reader. Withhold the payoff. Make them feel the dread of turning the page, just as they felt the dread of watching the next scene. Great horror films and great horror writing prove that fear is architecture plus aftertaste. It's the structure of the trap and the poison it leaves behind. Think of the dollhouse in Hereditary, or the sunken place in Get Out. These aren't just settings. They are psychological blueprints of terror. Films like The Ring set a new bar for psychological horror, a level of craft that critics and filmmakers are still chasing. But now it's your turn. I want to know what films perfected the art of dread for you. What are the modern masterpieces, the overrated blockbusters, and the hidden gems that truly got under your skin? Drop your essential horror syllabus in the comments below. And when you're done, cue up my video on the most underrated horrors of the 21st century. There are some fresh chills in there I guarantee you haven't felt before. And if your phone rings tonight, well, you know the drill. Maybe just let it go to voicemail.